I came here with nothing. I had to start everything from scratch. I was deeply depressed for the first 3 or 4 months.
You now have a lot of money. How does that feel?
I don't think I have the kind of money that people may think I have. Not even
How many
close.
restaurants you have?
We have now over 40.
Are they all losing money?
None of them are losing money.
So why do you say you don't have the kind of money people think you do? Your father was not good with money, no? People took a lot of advantage of him.
He was not a good businessman. So one of the key reasons for my accelerating my return back was because I felt that he was being wronged.
There were people who would have maybe given you a job.
I don't think I would have been good at a job. Why are you even applying? I don't think you're cut out for a job. You should go and do something on your own.
It's not your personality.
I just want to dance to the beat of my own drum.
Did you realize you were going to end up in this business?
First week that we opened, I think the average sale was 20,000 a day.
Really?
By that standard, I would have to shut the restaurant in 6 months.
You were a judge in MasterChef.
Don't ask me why I did that.
But were you like good to your fans when people came for selfies?
In fact, I would feel bad if not enough of them came.
Really? You're partnering with Gaggan to open in India.
Whatever I do at Masala Library, it's great, but this is another level.
You don't think you succeeded?
Not even close. I don't think I'm even 1% where I want to be.
Really?
Yeah, not even 1%.
Rolling. My guest today is a man who's changed the course of Indian restaurant cuisine almost without meaning to. When Zorawar Kalra, son of the legendary Jiggs Kalra, India's greatest foodie and my friend, I have to say, came into the business, I think he thought he was going to be a successful restaurateur. What he didn't realize was that he would invent new kinds of restaurants. He would change the way in which people looked at Indian food. He would make Indian food cool. He would build, of course, this massive empire for himself. And when he was not looking, he would dance on television. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
You grew up, one could say, almost with korma in your veins because your father was India's greatest foodie. Tell us a bit about him.
Firstly, thank you so much. Such a privilege to be here with you.
Oh, thank you.
Out of all the, I just enjoy podcasts a lot, but speaking with you is actually the highlight of all conversations for most people in the industry. Growing up with Jiggs Kalra was actually a phenomenal experience. Like all sons, I kind of considered my father larger than life. I saw his lifestyle. I saw what he was doing. I saw the kind of admiration he got. It's also very interesting to note that 2 of the first things related to media and food were done by him. The first syndicated column on food was his column on food at the Illustrated Weekly with Mr. Kushwant Singh. And also, I think it was the first TV show on food, especially at prime time. Doordarshan, 1 o'clock, every Sunday, used to be Dawat with the Chef Manjeet Gill. And I think those are some great memories. So my father...
Third, the cookbook he wrote became ultimately the ultimate cookbook for everybody. Show me a chef of that generation, or even now, who hasn't used Prasad, and I'll show you a liar. It was that important.
And what I thought about Prasad was that it was the most democratic of all books.
Yeah.
It was called Cooking with Indian Masters, and every single recipe had the name of the chef with whom he worked. Very visibly mentioned right below the name of the dish.
He never took anybody's credit away. A lot of these chefs of that generation who are famous now are famous only because of him. We'd never heard of chefs before he came along.
I think he definitely enjoyed working with chefs a lot. And that's the kind of culture that we're also trying to imbibe. We want to be a very chef-forward company. And I've always tried my best. In fact, the biggest skill that an entrepreneur in the food industry today can have is to be able to create an ecosystem that harbors great talent. And then beyond that, gets to hopefully retain that great talent. And as long as you can do that, I think the kind of great artistry that exists, the artisanal quality that exists in Indian chefs is unparalleled and second to none.
Did you realize you were going to end up in this business?
I think you can't instill anything into a child, but you can definitely harbor the development of it. And I think what my father did was maybe subconsciously harbor the development and a sense of passion towards the restaurant industry in my head. So if I were to be very honest, as far back as I can remember, perhaps even pre-teen years, all I ever wanted to do was be in the food business in some way, shape or form. I'm talking about literally maybe before I was even 13. And in no small fact, in fact, almost entirely driven by my father's larger than life existence and his, the kind of lifestyle that he led. I was infatuated. But also, I just loved food. I just love food since the day I was born. We were a very foodie household. My dadi was perhaps the biggest influence on my father's life, and then through him and directly to me. And so we were just impassioned about food. And one thing I think my father really gave me while growing up was this sense of responsibility towards Indian food. He used to hate it when people used to call it a three curry based cuisine. It was the greatest. It is the greatest cuisine in the world. It's got the deepest culinary philosophy. It's got a variety and a sophistication that is unparalleled in the world. I mean, if you just look at vegetarian food, two of our states, if you put them together, just Rajasthan and Gujarat has more vegetarian variety than the rest of the world put together.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a culinary legacy, which in my opinion is the greatest intellectual property left behind for us by our ancestors. And he kind of instilled this passion and sense of responsibility for Indian food within me. And I kind of took it as through him, perhaps a personal crusade that we have to do something about it. The world has to start talking about this brilliant, nuanced, fabulous, sophisticated cuisine. And so, yeah, I think because of him and because of just being a child around his, the way he did things and the fact that he was well known, I feel a sense of pride in this very hotel that we were sitting in. I still remember the Doordarshan show was coming and we were little kids. We were buying some pastry or something at the lobby pastry shop. And this family came up to my father and just were going goo goo gaga. And there were no cameras at that time, but literally they were so happy to meet him. These were indelible memories that further propagated and propitiated the love for this industry in my head.
We're shooting at the Hyatt Regency in Delhi. Your father did one of the restaurants here. He redid it and called it Dilli Ka Angan. I don't know if you remember that.
Remember it very well?
Yeah, it was one of the most influential restaurants of its time.
The salmon tikka was invented in this very restaurant.
Absolutely. It's one of his many inventions.
And perhaps India's, or perhaps the world's first modern Indian dish.
Yes, absolutely. Norwegian salmon had just come into India. Indian chefs didn't know what to do with it. Your father said, why don't you turn into tikka? He worked on the marinade and he created a dish that is now standard at all Indian restaurants all over the world. And people don't realize he invented it.
It was amazing. The moment that I found out that it contains orange juice and red wine, I was blown away. I'm like, does that even go into a marination? I had very limited knowledge at that time, but I was blown away. And till today is probably one of my most favorite comfort avant-garde dishes.
That's true. It is.
Comfort and avant-garde.
No, he had many things. We'll talk about those. But how did you start out in the business?
So my whole goal, like I said, from the pre-teen years was to somehow be involved in this industry through restaurants or through other means. And so even my educational pursuits were then driven by this very goal. And when I did my schooling here, I did my undergrad also over here. I went for my MBA to Bentley simply for one single reason, to arm myself with the business knowledge to be able to come back and build a F&B business of scale. And the one thing that I really credit, it was a great MBA, but one thing that I really credit it for is that it instilled in me the idea of scale, and not to think boutique, but in fact to think larger in size. And that's what I think American business is all about. So I was basically a very raw entrepreneur, perhaps surviving on instinct, etc. I was doing dabbling with share trading and kind of weird things. In fact, I still remember there was a day when there was a bull run happening and I thought I'm the best share trader in the world. Everybody was making money. I had bought a stock. It went up by the end of the day. I thought I'm the one who was doing something brilliant. I obviously was not. And I found out when the bubble burst, especially with Satyam Computer, I remember losing a lot of money. And I realized, I don't have the tenacity to be able to do.
But you were interested, that means in business and investment even then.
Because I was very clear on this, that I did not see myself as a person working for anyone else. It was very clear to me that I have to do something on my own. And I think it was kind of preordained, but also it was perhaps in my DNA or perhaps in my psyche. Sometimes it is always certain kind of people are perhaps always meant to fly on their own or dance to the beat of their own drum. And I think I would have found it hard to perhaps get some kind of a work experience for an extended period of time. I did dabble with some work such as an internship. I've actually never done a job.
Really?
I've actually never done a job.
You've never actually got a salary and had a job and got Provident Fund and all that?
I have had no jobs. The only time that I got paid, and I think it was $14 an hour, was during an internship that I did in Michigan. So first year of MBA was over. You had to do some internship. I was lucky enough to get one. I remember it was a summer that I drove down to Michigan and I did a summer of internship, which is about, I think, a month and a half. And I got paid for me, pretty handsomely, $14 an hour. And I think 8 hours a day is what I was getting paid. So
Not
it was
bad.
a fairly decent amount of money. I had staying with my brother. And
Why did you come back? You could have stayed on in America, no?
yeah, I think, so before I move on to why I came back, the only other time I've ever gotten paid is when I got paid for my work at MasterChef. And that was the only check that I've ever received as
You
such.
must have been paid for that dance competition also.
I did get paid, yes. I did get paid.
So
but
you're paid as a TV star, but not as a business person.
I haven't been paid by anyone else apart from the internship and these two shows.
Really?
Yeah.
So television was your only source of income outside your own business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell me why you came back. Let's go back.
You know, my father, as you're very well aware, had a stroke, a debilitating stroke in 2000.
Yes.
And it left his entire left side paralyzed. He was one of India's most frequent flyers, and from that to complete bed rest overnight was very painful for him, but also for us as a family. First, our goal was to make sure that he's okay. And when he was okay, the way his life came to a standstill kind of created a big problem for us as a family. But by that time, I'd already applied for my MBA, and my father forced me literally to definitely go ahead and pursue it, because he said, "What are you going to do here right now? You're 24 years old. Go finish your education and then see what you want to do." So I finished the education, and immediately after that, I decided to come back because he was unwell. The business was what it was. It was basically a consulting business. It was not really a large-scale business. It didn't have any restaurants. It didn't own any intellectual property.
Your father was not good with money, no? People took a lot of advantage of him, and he never really got the kind of returns he deserved.
I think he got not even a fraction of the kind of credit and returns that he deserved.
I agree.
And that's not just a son talking.
No, I'm just talking as an outsider. I saw it too.
Yeah. And yeah, he was not good with money. He was not a good businessman. He was an ideas millionaire.
Yeah.
He would come up with an idea a day, but idea is only worth anything if it's executed.
And he was cheated by a lot of people.
He was almost fooled by some people.
Yeah.
In his, especially once he got sick. Before that, I would say he was gullible, but not to the extent of being able to be taken advantage of. But once he got sick, and the man is cognitively also compromised to some extent, you're bound to get some people like vultures to come and try and take advantage of that. That happened with him for sure.
And there were people he nurtured, people he started out in business who really took him for everything he had.
Absolutely. And I have been to the so one of the key reasons for my accelerating my return back, perhaps my return was inevitable, but accelerating it was because I felt that he was being wronged.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had no sense of confidence in myself or my ability. I was just a son who was doing his duty in a way. And I just had to come back because I could not deal with living this comfortable life in the US. Although, to be very frank, my goal was to come back in any case, because the idea was to get the knowledge and then come back. But I perhaps came back 2 or 3 years earlier. I had to. There was simply no other option. Seeing him sick, and then I didn't know about his health. We had a setup where, literally many times a year, he had to be taken to the ICU.
Yep.
So it was a complex time, very close-knit family. I was very, very close to my father. Like, I don't think him and my grandfather were perhaps the two people that I was closest to. I would say today probably it's my son and my daughter, but it's just a very tight-knit family, and I just could not let him be laggard like that. My mother was also had early stages of dementia at that time, although very early, thankfully, and she was still able to take very good care, but I just could not let him be left alone.
So that's the point. You came back, giving up what could have been a great future in America for a father who was like in a wheelchair, could not move, a mother who was in the early stages of dementia, and a business that really had nothing.
There was no intellectual property. There was barely any income stream. In fact, there was actually none.
There was none.
There was no income stream whatsoever, and there were huge bills to pay.
Yeah.
My father didn't have insurance. So every time he went to the hospital, hard cash had to be paid because he had missed out on getting a renewal done, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there was nothing substantial to come back to. In fact, to be very honest, Mr. Sanghvi, I was deeply depressed for the first 3 or 4 months. I had nothing to look forward to. I'd just come back from the US. I thought I'm going to have some kind of a preemptive career over there and then come here. But I came here with nothing. I had to start everything from scratch. And I still remember that I had to figure out a way to make a basic amount of income coming in every month just to cover the additional costs.
Yeah.
We were never in a situation that we were struggling. I had our own house. My grandfather had left enough investments for us to survive, but not thrive. So bootlegged is how I started my business, because I knew even at that time, I didn't even look for a job. I still remember my father forced me to go and meet one headhunter When she saw me, in the first 5 minutes, she said, "Why are you even applying? I don't think you're cut out for a job. You should go and do something on your own." And in the first 5 minutes, I still remember somewhere in Panchil was her office. I'm like, why am I going? I went begrudgingly just to satisfy my father because he wanted me to get a job before I could start a business. We didn't have the kind of capital. It was all bootlegged. My entire business was started with my own funds, which my grandfather had left me, and they were not that substantial.
That's right.
To begin with. So yeah, I mean, I didn't even look for a job apart from that one as a formality interview that I did. And it was more of I just went and said hi, and she said, no point. She told my dad.
Now, your father had a lot of goodwill. So there were people who would have maybe given you a job because you were Jiggs' son. But you chose not to go that route. You became a risk taker.
I don't think I would have been good at a job. I don't think I would have been good at a job for long term anyway. Maybe I would have done something to please my father or to, be grateful for the obligation that his friend may have forwarded. No. But I don't think I would have done that for long. Just had a vision.
It's not your
head.
Personality.
It's just not in me to be able to take orders. I like I said, I just want to dance to the beat of my own drum. Yeah. And I may have, if working for someone else would not give me the kind of fulfillment that I enjoy today. Now, today there's a lot of risk on my head, a lot of stress. The anxiety levels must be 10x of what I would have had I been doing a job.
There's also a lot of money in the bank.
There is, I definitely can't complain, but right. I can definitely say this to you that I don't think I did this ever for the money. No. I think I did it more for the freedom and a sense of...
I think you did it because this was all you could do. You were not cut out for anything else.
Yeah, I was not a good sportsman. I was not a very great academic. I was maybe above average in school. Nothing great, nothing to write home about. And but I knew I had again, I don't want to sound pompous when I say this, but I thought I had a way to deal with people, and I thought I could work with people and in some way lead them, and I found comfort in that. So to give an example, there was a debate competition happening in my MBA first year. I had just met these people. This is 2 months into the program. I barely knew any of my classmates. And I naturally became the leader of that group, and that group ended up winning that project. It was not a debate. It was more like a project. I had to do a business project and then come up with the whole thing. And then I kind of led it, and then it was amazing. And I that day realized, or maybe perhaps even before that my comfort comes from being the guy taking the reins rather than just trudging along. Yep. It just somehow came naturally to me, and I thought, why fight it? I would have been
How
suffering.
Did you start? You had nothing really going for you except for yourself. So how did you start?
Everything started with a food court outlet. One of my friends was doing very well in the F&B industry, and I was very motivated by seeing that. And I thought that this is Firstly, this is all I always wanted to do. I was just finding the right time to do it. And I always had a natural inclination, and I had my father's great, his great name and his goodwill that was at my disposal. But surprisingly, the very first business that I opened never had anything to do with him or his name.
Really? What did you do?
It was called the Paratha Company.
Okay.
And it was small carts that served only 3 items. One was a mutton galauti kebab. One was a vegetarian galauti kebab made with zimkand and all kinds of beautiful masalas, beautifully smoked. And the third was a valki paratha. And there were those 3 items. And we started our first cart in Defense Colony outside the beautiful Kent's restaurant, whose mutton burger is still the best burger in the city. And right outside, we took a little spot, and I opened my first little cart. I still have a photo.
How did it do?
It did fairly okay. It did not break the bank, but it was fairly okay. And but I did not get any fulfillment because it was on the roadside, and I opened 4 or 5 of these. I was always having a problem with the supply. I was totally bootstrapped. There's a small little kitchen we had opened in Saidul Ajab area, not even Saidul Ajab, outside of that, and was like a really weird area to walk in. I still remember once Mr. Rocky Mohan actually came in. We were talking about doing some work together, and he actually came in and saw the kitchen. I was embarrassed. He came in this beautiful fancy Mercedes, and I'm like, where the hell am I taking this great man into my weird kitchen? I felt embarrassed about that kitchen. But it was enough to give me that little bit of confidence that I can, if I put my energy into it, I can make this work. One good thing about me, especially at that age, was that I had nothing else to do but this. And this is the only thing that I wanted to do. And I wanted to succeed so badly that I would have done anything.
Okay.
And it started off with that, but then I couldn't use my father's name. How am I going to put Jiggs Kalra's name on a little stall?
Right.
Where, the guy might have gone on
Did
for
you
chai
use
and-
his recipes at least?
Of course.
The galotti,
absolutely.
He made the galotti famous. Nobody would have heard of the Tunde Kebab Wala outside of Lucknow if it wasn't for your father.
Absolutely. It would have stayed in Aminabad.
Yeah.
The greatest kebab, in my opinion, in this country, and especially the greatest family of kebab, and it would have completely been lost.
It's your father who really discovered them and made them famous.
Absolutely. By putting them on these food festival
right.
menus and putting them in hotels and doing so much media. My father was a great media person. He was really good. In fact,
Well, he was from the media, no?
Yes, he was a journalist.
Yeah.
His whole life, he started off as a journalist, and then he always had a soft spot for the media, and he had a knack for using it and wielding it.
Yeah.
Like a weapon almost, in a positive manner, of course, not weapon in a negative way, but weapon in a way that he could actually get his work out there faster. And this is the time where you had great journalists, you had people really doing hard work, not the kind of stuff that's happening today, but with some of the other forms of media, but serious journalists that were writing, they're doing research, coming up with stuff. And the only way you could spread the word was through newspapers, magazines, and maybe radio, but I think newspapers and magazines mainly. And he was able to wield that effectively.
I've distracted you. We were talking about the cart string kebabs and parathas, and then?
Yeah, so we had just sold our house in Delhi, South Delhi. I think you've been there, but no, I don't think you've been there. And we moved to Gurgaon. And in Gurgaon, at the Metropolitan Mall, I opened my very first proper kiosk or proper shop, you can say. Not a restaurant. It was in a food court. And I opened something called Punjab Grill and Street Foods of India.
That was the first Punjab Grill and street food.
The first Punjab Grill in the world, and now I'm very proud of the brand, although I don't own it anymore, was a food court outlet in Metropolitan Mall in Gurgaon. And right next to it, we opened something called Street Foods of India. I opened these in about 4 or 5 locations in Delhi NCR and one in Lucknow. So about 5, 6, 7 stores, all bootstrapped again. And no real sense, despite having an MBA, I'm not proud of the fact that I did not have enough of a finance team in order to be able to run this smoothly. So it was trudging along. It was doing okay. I had enough capital. I had enough money to go and pay for my honeymoon, etc. But
where do you go?
We went to Spain, Barcelona.
So you weren't doing so badly.
I was doing okay.
Yeah.
I was doing okay. And the reason for going to Spain is actually elBulli. I was...
Really?
Yes. I was able to get...
How do you get a booking at elBulli? It was supposed to be impossible. I never got it.
The hardest restaurant in the world, opened only 6 months. I think there was a year-long waiting at that time. And the number 1 restaurant in the world. And molecular gastronomy. I barely knew what molecular gastronomy even meant. When I told my wife, listen, are you okay in going to Spain? This is before even the marriage. She said, of course.
Was she a foodie?
She was not as much of a foodie as at that time as she is today. Today, I would say she is as big a foodie as I am. I would not... I think she loves food and is now deeply knowledgeable about it.
Okay.
Almost to the extent that I am. And I find that's another reason why, we love going out for these trips where all our trips are basically revolving around food.
Okay,
restaurants.
So you go for honeymoon, you get a table at elBulli, and then what happens?
It was the most mesmerizing culinary experience of my life. It was perhaps the singular 4 hours that have altered the course of my life more than anything else. It was an incredible experience with the best restaurant in the world, and the way that everything was executed, and the food, of course. When I ate that bui olive out of that jar, I was just blown away. I'm like, how is this possible? And I had all kinds of things, every kind of technique that we've all been using over the decades since that think tank of a restaurant shut down. Were all born there.
Yeah.
I had things like an algae that somebody had literally dived down in that little cove that they have, like maybe hundreds of feet down, and collected that algae that he made into some kind of a salad. There was a tomato soup that was in the form of gelatin. He gave me a chicken feet dish. That's the one that I did. That's the only dish that I did not enjoy at all. There's no meat on a chicken foot. But overall, it was a mesmerizing experience, not just from the food on display, but just the way the whole artistry worked together. The way the servers were, the way I was walking to the restroom, and there were 3 servers carrying plates, and how they all just gracefully moved out of the way, and the maitre d' escorted me to the bathroom. And it was orchestrated almost. It was like a theatrical release of a well-designed movie. and everything just worked. And there was even a leakage above our head. It was very crazy. And the maitre d' came up to said, and you know what, there was a genuine fault. There was a windowsill and the water was coming down on our table. We had a beautiful table overlooking a window and we could see the cove outside. And he said, you know what, that's part of the theater. He obviously made a joke out of it, but it was just the way they handled everything. That meal is the one that kind of sowed the seed of an idea in my brain of what this kind of modern technique can be applied to Indian food. What could that do? Because we have the longest culinary traditions. If we apply the most modern with the most ancient, what would that result in? And I think that's what Masala Library and Farzi Café ended up doing.
So again, we stick to the chronology. You start Street Foods of India and Punjab Grill in a mall in Gurgaon, and then?
And then I bumped into this very close friend of mine called Pawan Gandok.
Okay.
He was in some very distant way also related to me, but very, very distant, almost inconsequential. And he introduced me to Amit Burman and Rohit Agarwal, who then, of course, became my partners, great friends to this date. We built Punjab Grill into finally a restaurant form. I was finally, for the first time, able to put my dad's name on the door, which I was not comfortable doing in a food court.
A Punjab Grill restaurant.
A restaurant.
Now not a food court.
Now, and we shut the food court before we opened the restaurant.
Okay.
So we obviously had to. It was a big, huge dichotomy if you're going to have.
Where did you open the restaurant?
Ambience Mall in Gurgaon.
Wow. Okay.
The first store opened in a beautiful location, and of course that became the first Jiggs Kalra branded restaurant in the world. Yeah. Because till before that he was doing these beautiful concepts but never put his name on the door because he didn't own them. This was a restaurant that we owned, and very proudly I wrote Punjab Grill by Jiggs Kalra. It was an absolute raging smash hit. And that's what gave me the confidence. And having good partners like Amit and Rohit also accelerated the process. And Pawan being there to kind of, stitch everything together. It was just fabulous. It was a great ride. So that's how Punjab Grill was born. And then we grew that over the next few years.
How many outlets did that become in your time?
I exited
When you
the company.
sold, or how many?
When I sold or exited, rather, the company, this was in 2012, March, I think, when I exited the company. At that time, it was, I think, about 8 stores, including one franchise store in Singapore at the Marina Bay Sands.
Not bad for any. Started out with a Paratha trolley outside of Defense Colony, no?
Absolutely. I mean, when I look back at it, the speed was pretty immense.
Yeah.
I was only 8 stores, but very high turnover, and arguably the leanest operation in F&B. I mean, we were doing crazy EBITDAs. And that's why I was able to exit successfully, because the company was so profitable. I was doing great. Every store was hitting it out of the park. It was the hottest North Indian chain in India.
And it thrives to this day.
And it thrives to this day. They've done a good job of retaining and growing it. Yeah. Not just maintaining it, but actually growing it significantly. And whenever I see a Punjab Grill, I feel immense pride even now.
Yeah.
It's not mine, and I don't even compete with it directly, although I have a Made in Punjab brand which does very well, and in some markets we may compete with them, but I don't see it as competition. It's like, like a child that you've let fly.
Yeah.
A child that's perhaps left the roost and has gone off.
But left his pocket money behind, because you did quite well out of the sale.
Absolutely. No, without a doubt. I think I could have sold it for more, but...
but doesn't everyone?
But
seller's remorse, yeah.
No, actually I have no remorse. You know why? Because I consciously took that decision.
Yeah.
I wanted a smaller non-compete, and I agreed to a lower value. And this was a very amicable whole exchange.
So you left them when?
2012.
How old were you?
I must have been 33.
Not bad, no?
Yeah, 34 actually. 34.
Not bad. You're exiting with money, having built 8 restaurants?
Yeah. And I exited that company, very amicable, by the way. To this day, Rohit and Amit are very dear friends. And so is Pawan.
And they speak very highly of you. So.
Yeah, I mean, just brothers from another mother. And I had the opportunity to also run the company for a year, because it had to be handed over. It was literally my close set of people running the company. It took a year's time, and then we decided to move on, and I had a 6-month non-compete, and literally at the end of that 6 months, on the date, I incorporated Massive Restaurants, which is my current company. And a year after the incorporation of that company, we opened Masala Library in Bombay.
Did you have a non-compete? Or
6 months.
Okay.
That's why I agreed to a lower value.
Not much of a non-compete. No.
So, like I said, you have to quid pro quo, right?
Yeah.
You have to agree to certain things, and etc. And the good thing is that everybody was aware that like how apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I am going to end up doing this in any case. And this is all I know how to do. Like you said, this is literally the only thing I know how to do. And I could be good at it.
It was what you were born to do, in a way.
Possibly.
After this, after your non-compete runs out, you open in BKC, right?
Yes.
In Bombay's Bandra Kurla, which at that stage hadn't quite taken off in the way it has now.
Not at all. I took a punt.
You took a punt. And you also took a punt on the kind of restaurant. So tell me about that.
That was the biggest punt.
Yeah.
So like I said, the seed of a modern Indian restaurant was sown at the time of 2006 when I went for the elBulli meal. And I always thought that if I'm going to open a new restaurant, I should not copy myself. I could have easily opened Masala Library by Jiggs Kalra, and it could be traditional Punjab Grill kind of food. But I definitely wanted to deviate from that. Otherwise, I would have been called a one-trick pony. Plus, it would not have instilled in me the kind of confidence in my skill as well as fulfilled my creative instincts. So I wanted to do something new. And then we got these chefs, Himanshu and Saurabh, arguably the greatest duo in the Indian kitchens. And we started Masala
I love
Library.
that we got these chefs. We could tell the full story.
No, so I naturally there was at that time only one modern Indian restaurant in India, and I think Gaggan had opened 1 year before in 2012.
Gaggan had opened in 2010. So then,
and at that time there was Gaggan, which was the most incredible restaurant in the world, and then we had this wonderful Indian accent in India. So there was still it was completely new wave. There was no wave. There were 2 restaurants in the world at that time that I know of that were doing modern Indian food. And Masala Library had to come and carve out its own niche. I wanted to do modern Indian food, but with molecular. And at that time, like I said, I think there was only Gaggan in Bangkok that was doing that.
Manish was not particularly molecular.
Yeah, it was modern, beautiful
modern
food.
Without being molecular.
Without molecular. And that was the right time for it. It had not yet become a drama. It hadn't yet been, for the lack of a better term, bastardized yet. It was still in its
infancy,
in nascent stages, and it was being done with restraint. And that's what Masala Library tried to do. So we opened this restaurant. It was a lot of stress for me because, at
we've
that time,
glossed over the chefs.
So we got the 2 chefs.
Right.
The 2 chefs joined us. I can't remember who connected me with them. But
do you remember where they used to work?
I remember where they used to work. They used to work at Indian Accent.
Oh, what a coincidence. Go on.
No, so that's well known. In fact, your article today covers that very, very in great detail.
Okay. No, but they were the right chefs to pick.
They were the right chefs to pick. There was no other place to get that kind of talent. Because
Himanshu Saini and Saurabh.
Yeah. Both fabulous chefs, both used to work under the great chef Manish, who's a very close dear friend.
Manish Mehrotra.
Manish Mehrotra, and his new restaurant Nisaba is actually probably, in my opinion, one of the most repeatable restaurants in the world, if not in India, for me. I would go there and eat.
You've been very generous in your praise for that.
Yeah, it just is one of those places where that tabak mas style of new lamb chop that he's done is arguably the most inventive use of a lamb chop and tabak mas in a singular dish that I've ever seen. So his culinary genius is well on display there.
Okay. I've distracted. So you steal these 2 chefs.
I'm trying to delay that conversation.
So you steal these 2 chefs from Indian Accent and you open Masala Library. But the menu is not Indian Accent. The menu
totally
is different. Yeah. So tell us
as different as it could possibly be. So the idea was, like I said, to get people with kind of a skill with some level of modicum of information on modern Indian food, because there was no precedent. Where would I get a Punjab Grill chef to come and do all of that? Would have been harder. So I thought this is a low-hanging fruit. We didn't steal them. We poached them, if that's a
big
word that
difference.
You can use. But they were very forthcoming and, obviously finished their proper notice periods, etc. They came and joined us. And I said that with this clean slate of a young chef that has no baggage, that has a clean slate in the head, I can perhaps create this restaurant of my dreams. And so we started experimenting. There was no books. I don't think we even bought a single book. The first book that I must have bought for either Himanshu or Saurabh would have been maybe when Farzi Café opened. Masala Library was all hit and trial, just studying on the internet. And remember, that time in 2013, there was not this wealth of information that you see today.
Right.
You really had to scrounge up that information. So we did all of that. We started playing around. I still remember I had a little office in Gurgaon, and we would sit there and ideate, because there was almost a year since the time the company was formed and the first restaurant opened. And I think these guys must have joined us maybe 7 to 8 months before the restaurant opened. So there was a lot of time to think, a lot of time to do nothing but just ideate. I think that was a good thing. That was a blessing in disguise. And I still remember the creation of the dish Jalebi Caviar when they were sitting
Which
in my
became
room.
the signature, no, of that restaurant.
Yes, it is definitely one of those dishes that is.
It's been so widely copied as well.
It has been, and it was the dish that kind of was most emblematic of the kind of nuance that restaurant had. It had no molecular.
And yet it was not molecular. So tell us how the dish was created.
So I was sitting in my restaurant and I always thought, caviar, especially the orange caviar, does look like a bundi.
It does.
And I immediately, just somehow how this idea came about, I don't even know. I took a pen and a sheet of paper and I dropped the pen and it made a little dot. And Himanshu and Saurabh were sitting right there. And I told them, listen, can we make a jalebi of that size, orange in color, and we'll call it Jalebi Caviar. And that's how the dish was born. And then, of course, them using their really skilled, they're boffins. Both of them are very, very intelligent, cerebral chefs. They both came up with this special sieving mechanism. It was like a bundi, but it was a really tiny bundi, not easy to pull off. And they would then obviously make that, and then they added the saffron foam and the rabdi, of course. It was a very fulfilling, creative whole adventure, I would say. It was the whole 6-8 months that we were ideating about this restaurant was a lot of fun. There was no stress. The restaurant's not open, so you don't have the daily rigmarole of, my sales are this or sales are that. But I still remember the first week that we opened, there was no real talk. The location was great, but very, very expensive. One of the most expensive real estates in India. But I thought that if I'm going to open a by Jiggs Kalra restaurant, it should be in the right spot. And we opened it, and first week, I think the average sale was 20,000 a day. By that standard, I would have to shut the restaurant in 6 months. And suddenly some reviewer came, and this is the good old days of a journalist actually writing a review and people reading about it in the newspaper. And then, of course, word of mouth. And I can't tell you, Mr. Sanghvi, that in about 3 weeks from the day that we opened, we were getting about 300 to 400 calls a day. We were sold out for weeks in advance.
It was impossible to get a table, I remember.
It was impossible to get a table for a long, long time. And it was validation and vindication at its peak, at least for me in my career, that we took a risk. We took almost like a punt. You're taking a risk with India's beloved cuisine.
Yeah.
You can't mess around. I can mess around with, Chinese food and Japanese food and, English food and American food. But if I mess around with our beloved Indian food, this could be a disaster as well. And people loved it because the whole crux of the concept was to always pay homage to the host cuisine or the host dish. And that's what they were able to do. And it was just like it was a perfect storm. All the pieces fell into place, and we had a fabulous team. I think there was an ensemble cast of the best of the industry, all under one roof. It was luck, fortune, destiny, preordained series of events that led to that restaurant become.
There was nothing in your background that suggested you could do a modern Indian restaurant, let alone one that was so influential.
Nothing at all.
It came from your own head.
It came entirely from my own head. I had never even been to Gaggan, which in my opinion is the greatest restaurant in the world today.
Yeah.
I had not even been to Gaggan when I opened this restaurant. I'd never been. And at that, Gaggan became super famous, I think, around that period, but it was beginning
Neither did Himanshu or Saurabh. You guys were in your own.
Yeah, they were younger chefs, obviously super talented, but they didn't have the people didn't know about them.
Yeah.
So we gave them that canvas, of course, but then their own effort. I can't take credit for what they've achieved in their lives. They were just given maybe a first canvas by us, but talent is talent, and cream will always rise to the top.
Sure. Masala Library is the father of Farzi Cafe, right?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
So when Masala Library opened, it was obviously financially very successful. That gave me a lot of confidence. And, at that time I was starting out, the food business was really growing, like compounded annually was probably growing at about 25%. That means every 3.5 years, the entire business was doubling. So it was the best time to open a restaurant in India. 2014, 15, 16, 17. These 4 or 5 years was fabulous. And I thought that if Masala Library or modern Indian food has to grow within India, I can't do it in this format. It's too expensive. It's not that approachable. It's a premium concept. It's fine dining. The youth will never come about and come to a Masala Library more often. They'll come with their parents maybe. They're not going to come on their own or hang out with friends. So Farzi Cafe was conceptualized with a singular thought in mind. In fact, the sole purpose for Farzi Cafe to exist was to create a renaissance amongst the youth of the country for our beloved Indian food, and to make Indian food hopefully hip and cool.
Which you did.
Yes, I think Farzi Cafe was the first modern Indian restaurant in the world in a casual format.
Yeah.
And it was just quirkiness. It was just fun. It was playful. It had no cuisine. It had no theme. It was theme agnostic.
Yeah.
The cuisine was technically all Indian with playfulness and drama and theater, but with restraint involved. We were doing all the cutting edge stuff that people talk about, but
many of those
doing with
dishes
restraint.
people still talk about as being very influential. There was that Parle cheesecake.
Yeah.
There was a posh Maggie.
Yeah,
I
the dal chawal arancini.
Yeah.
There were
That
few
dal
dishes.
chawal arancini again is a very well copied dish now.
Very well copied. Almost in every country that I go to, I see a version of dal chawal arancini.
Yeah.
I'm very proud to say that that's another dish that I invented.
Really?
Yes, the dal chawal, because
How do you think
knew,
of it?
Because arancini balls. I mean, I knew it's leftover risotto, and then
Turned
Italian
into a
moms
ball and
turned into
deep
a ball.
fried, yeah.
I just thought, why don't we do this? I can't do risotto. What's Indian in that? And I wanted to create an entire dal chawal experience in a bite. So you have the little bit of achari mayo instead of achar. You have the tomato ka salsa instead of the pyaz tomato ki chutney, and you have the green chutney and the papad, little small tiny little papad. So when you eat that dish, you get the entire experience of all those different parts, but in one single whole. So, I think Farzi Cafe was a very influential brand. Obviously, I'm biased in some way, but
no, I don't think anybody disputes it as influential. I remember coming to the first outlet, which I revisited recently in Cyber Hub, and being blown away by the food.
I remember that day so well.
Really?
It's been indelibly etched into my mind, and it was just such a fun environment. I was literally sitting outside, I saw you, and you had not informed us.
No.
And you and Raj came in, and I was both super excited and super anxious at the same time. No, you have to understand that when you come into a kitchen, everybody's on their toes, and they want to do their best. They want to impress you. They want to make you happy because they know your depth of knowledge on food. So for people like me and for chefs, it's super important to get your seal of approval, or at least your validation. If that happens, I'm telling you, it acts like wind beneath the wings of most people. It's a fact.
You're being very kind.
But I'm being factual also.
But I remember the food. I remember how outstanding it was.
It was a great day. I still remember you gave me an idea, because at that time foie gras was legal.
That's right.
And I was selling foie gras on top of it and putting some truffle oil which you hate, in the Maggi. But that time I did not know you hated it. And you said, why don't you change this foie gras with galauti?
Yeah.
And so we did, because I thought by adding galauti, I made it even more Indian.
Galauti also, it was one of the things that your father made all of us love, no? So it was a real connection with your history.
I remember one statement you made. I can't remember which meeting of ours was this, but you said, if the Kalras can't do a galauti, then what the hell can they do?
Exactly.
So I made the galauti burger. And
remember, in most of India, nobody had heard of a galauti till your father came along.
No doubt.
The round kebab was a shami kebab.
Yeah.
Your father taught us what it was.
Yeah.
Nobody had heard of a long kebab called a kakori. We thought only of a Sikh kebab.
Yeah.
The only reason the kakori became famous is because your father made it famous, and because in the process he made Imtiaz Qureshi famous.
My father devoted, I sometimes get emotional, but I think my father devoted his entire life to Indian food. He spent 40 years, recording, conceptualizing. His whole goal was, his personal crusade was to put Indian food on the global palette. And I think very few people have added as much value to the propagation and proliferation of Indian food, especially globally, than him. Yeah. And yet, I feel sad sometimes that he has not got the kind of credit that he deserves. Absolutely. He has no national award.
Really?
He's got no national award, none of the Padmas or the, one of those, really coveted things. He was a true blue, red-blooded Indian who had a lot of nationalistic pride in him, and he did it through his art of food. He felt personally, he felt personally wronged when people used to say poor things about Indian food, or call it a curry house cuisine or a late night session food. He used to take it personally, and so his entire endeavor in his life was to kind of make the world realize that this is without a doubt the greatest cuisine on the planet. And he then devoted 40 years recording. He was a historian of food.
But which of us would now, if you say the word dampukt to anybody, everybody now knows what it is. Who'd heard of it till Jiggs came along? maybe a few people in Lucknow, and that too for a biryani, to use it as a style of cooking. That was your father.
Yeah. I still remember the days when he was doing the trials in the ITC. And I used to go there after school sometimes. School is St. Columbus.
Yeah.
So we used to go down there. And I still remember the first day that I tried his chèvre chicken Sikh gilafi.
Yeah.
And he was so ingenious in his thinking. And nobody had ever, I don't know why nobody else had thought of this, that he made a special sarya, which was almost 5 times the thickness or 6 times the thickness, and then put the chicken on that so that the gap between the kebab was larger so the chèvre could be piped in.
Right.
And I still remember it's the greatest tasting, even till today. I hope Dampuk, I go to Dampuk often, but I don't think I've seen that kebab. I think it's gone now. I wish they would revisit that.
He also invented the Indian celebrity chef. No chef had ever appeared in an ad. But your father put pressure on Major Rahman, who then ran ITC hotels, and said, "Your Dampuk, which he'd conceptualized, you're going to run ads for Dampuk. I want Imtiaz Qureshi's photograph in those ads." And that is how Imtiaz became a celebrity chef.
Yeah. He was definitely, he had this sense of responsibility, not just towards Indian food, but towards Indian chefs.
Towards the people who created that food. Yeah. He made them famous.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that a lot of the recipes that he worked on had 3 different inputs. One would be from a housewife, one would be from a top chef, one would be from somebody like a Hakim to come up with this, juxtaposition. And then he would work on those recipes. So if you have the galauti kebab of my father's recipe, is different from the one in Aminabad. It's perhaps a little bit more sophisticated, perhaps does not burn the throat as much. I love the galauti original one as well. I just thought my father's one was a little bit more palatable to a larger population.
Yeah. But he had that sense of sophisticating rustic recipes as well, no? And he was fascinated. I remember there was a phase in his life when he was fascinated by ajwain, which all of us had taken for granted. And I just learned so much about it talking to him.
I mean, he was like and this is what reminds me also of Mr. Pushpesh Pant.
Yeah.
He and Mr. Pushpesh Pant would sit in the basement of our house, that was his office, and spend hours in a day working on these recipes. Initially, he was doing it without Mr. Pant, but and Pushpesh uncle is obviously very close to us, will always be. And I still remember talking to these two, and I'm thinking, like, these two guys are encyclopedias. And there were times that they would give explanations to me that were verbatim from what you would perhaps read in an Oxford dictionary on food. And the kind of nuance, the kind of history that they studied, the kind of effort that they put in to actually researching all of this stuff is, I think, what led to his recipe books being arguably the most accurate. So if you follow a recipe...
They're standard texts. You can't go wrong with the Prasad recipe.
The Prasad recipe is just fabulous. Even a guy like me, who perhaps... is used to working with the best chefs. If I were to give that book to a new housewife or a cook in somebody's house, and if they followed it diligently, even me, would not be able to distinguish it from a restaurant-made dish if they followed it properly. That's the level of accuracy he used to work on grams. And I still remember he'd bought this very special scale, a digital scale. In those days, I'm talking about 2 decades ago, nothing was digital. Even phones were like rotation, whatever you call those. Rotary dial. Yeah. And he would measure grams. And I've seen this with my own eyes. And that's how he would make the recipes. He was very, very... He almost had an OCD for perfect measurements, which helped his recipes.
I remember, among the last years of his life, you held a party for him at the Masala Library in Bombay. And you had all these top chefs, Sanjeev Kapoor, people coming. And I was lucky enough to attend. And he came in a wheelchair. And he was just, tears in his eyes. He was just so proud of what his son had achieved.
My God, you were, in fact, you made I remember our interactions very, very well. So I remember a statement you made. You said, or maybe you wrote about this, but you definitely said it to me that day. You said, only your father's goodwill would have made people from all over the country come to Mumbai on this day. Yeah. You made that statement, and it touched my heart very, very dearly. And I really realized that day that he had earned a lot of goodwill.
He didn't get a financial reward. Yeah. He didn't get the awards he deserved. But his reward is the food we eat, which he changed.
Absolutely. No? And I really think that he, in the end, was a satisfied man. And the biggest victory is that... and I don't want to get emotional, but the day that he passed on, the whole country was only talking about this man. Yeah. It was front page news in every newspaper. And the amount of people, and I remember I'm forgetting this, somebody wrote on their wall that Today, my wall is full of only odes to Jiggs Kalra.
Yeah.
And it just shows how many lives he may have touched. And this was a very young lady. I'm forgetting who it was. I just can't for the life of me remember. But that post touched me the most because it actually kind of vocalized what I was thinking. That if so many people whose lives, nobody had anything bad to say about him.
No.
He may have his falling out with certain people. But in general, he was just a simple man who was deeply passionate about his craft and had a great sense of responsibility towards his beloved cuisine, Indian cuisine.
Who spent his life helping and creating chefs and people like that, many of whom at the end of the day turned their backs on him.
Yeah, they did. Or at least I definitely think that he deserved more credit.
Much more.
Like getting dum poked and working closely on Bukhara. These were two. And I still remember there was a time, Mr. Sanghvi, that there were about top 10 restaurants of India. 5 or 6 had his signature on them.
Yeah.
So
and it was across hotel chains.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a friend of Ajit Kerker's, had a lot to do with the Taj. He opened the Indian restaurant at the Oberoi Grand in Calcutta. I mean, he was all over.
Yeah. The Great Kebab Factory. One of the great inventions.
For which he's never given credit, right?
Yeah, he isn't. I keep pushing it as much as I can, but yeah, you're right. He was a great conceptualizer. The problem was he didn't own these concepts.
Yeah. But can you imagine that if he had been healthier or you'd been born early and the two of you had worked together and you had made them all come to life?
Either that or it wouldn't have worked at all.
No, it would have worked well.
My father and I were very, very close. The bond was, I can't even put words to it, but maybe I would have not, or maybe we would have not worked together as well as we did as a mentor and, like a disciple scenario. I think that would have worked better than for me to work under him. And because he was an alpha. Yeah. With him in the room, forget about it.
There was no room for anybody. There was no room for anyone else.
There was no room for anyone else. His friends, my own uncle, my chacha used to say the same thing, that you forget about it. He walks into the room, he's going to suck out the oxygen and he will, in a good way, and he will be the dominant alpha of that scenario. So me being the way I am, probably there could have been some...
different. Maybe you would have been
I would have molded myself.
In those days.
But it would have been a pleasure of my life to be... Although, to be very honest, for the first several years, till the time that he passed on in 2019, the almost 1.5 decades, I did work with him very closely. The best thing was being able to wake up and go and ask him about a culinary problem and for him to solve it. Or ask him, Dad, do you know this person? I may need an input from him, or I may need some advice, and a phone call, and it would solve that. So I missed that a lot. He had this shadow over me that was a very, very positive, shady, not shady in a bad way, like shading.
That gave you shade.
That gave me shade, kind of a shadow over me. That was just... a sense of comfort that I miss dearly, because since his passing, I feel this major void that I don't really have anybody else to go to in the same way that I had with him.
Yeah.
I very often come to you for advice, and you've been so
those are
kind.
Very big shoes to fill, Jiggs.
But I do this, and you know this. I come to you very often for advice, especially for important things, and thank you so much for always guiding me in the right way.
No, this is not about me. This is about you. Okay, I'm going to get back on track. We both got emotional. We're talking about Farzi Cafe. The first one opens, is a success. And then suddenly you're opening Farzi Cafes all over India. You opened a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, Farzi Cafe, I thought it's conceptualized with the idea of scale. And we wanted to, like I said, put Indian food first and foremost in the minds of the youth. And what better way than to open these restaurants? So yeah, we opened them rapidly across the country. And I was very clear that I didn't want a Farzi Cafe to be only in a metro. Yeah. I wanted it to be in tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. And today we are. We're in Varanasi. We're in Raipur. Yeah. We're in Lucknow. We're in obviously Hyderabad. We're in in Chennai. We're all over the country. But we're in overseas now. What really excites me is the fact that it's been 8 years now since we opened the first international Farzi Cafe.
Already 8 years?
Yeah. The London one is 8 years old. Dubai opened 10 years ago. Dubai opened in 2016. Yeah. And Dubai is 10 years old. London is 8 years old. Seattle is almost 2022. Yeah, 4 years old. New York is a year old now. But what I'm really proud about is the fact that Indian food, which was always relegated to dal chawal or dal makhani and butter chicken, found this new bastion of hope in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, in the sense that it became the cool place where the youth wanted to hang out. So by doing gigs and colorful and playful dishes, and by making a theme agnostic interior, and by doing all this curation that we try and do at Farzi Cafe, we actually were able to create a concept that was Indian at heart, but was able to attract all the youth. They were coming for date nights. They were coming for hanging out with their peers, which they were not doing earlier. So the happiness comes from the fact that Indian food is well on its way to remaining the dominant cuisine in this country, and hopefully it'll remain forever and across the world. I actually can't wait for the day that you go to any major city in the world and one of the top 3 dining destinations include one Indian restaurant.
Hopefully.
I think our cuisine deserves it. And that'll only happen through the great work that some of the great chefs and restaurateurs are now doing. I mean, look at the busiest restaurant in all of America is an Indian restaurant, Bungalow, by my friend Vikas.
Yeah.
And Sema is the most popular and the highest rated restaurant in New York, the Indian restaurant. So it's great to see what's happening. And this is India's moment. This is Indian cuisine's moment. And I think more restaurateurs and more chefs and really talented people that jump into the fray and try and do it with a genuine sense of responsibility towards our cuisine, I think we're all going to be the better for it.
Okay. You mentioned Vikas Khanna and the brilliant success he's had in New York, but you know him in a professional capacity also. You were a judge in MasterChef.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I still remember it came out completely out of the blue. I was perhaps being recognized as a up-and-coming restaurateur.
Yeah.
But this is 2016, and I just got a cold call from the people at Endemol, and they said, "Listen, we got this thing. We want to come and meet you." Sure. There was a new bar I was building in Carter Road. I remember I was sitting in Masala Bar, and they came and met me, and we had a great conversation, and they liked me. And they said, "Listen, we have this opportunity for you, and you should do this." I immediately, the first instance was, what the hell am I going to do there? I'm not a chef.
Yep.
And what if I come across as an idiot and, all those doubts that creep in your mind? So even though I was very excited and I guess I was almost flattered by the fact that they even considered me, I was not fully sold to the idea. So I immediately called my wife. She said, "Are you nuts? Do it right now. Nobody knows you. By the end of this show, the whole country will know you." And this is 2016. There was no Netflix.
Right.
Everybody went on these general entertainment channels, GCs, and watched these shows. So yes, I said yes. I was still very nervous. I was not in the most fittest of conditions. So I thought, am I going to look not very fit on TV, etc., etc. But I still took the plunge. And it was arguably one of the most fulfilling
Who were the
experiences.
other judges? It was Vikas,
Kunal
you
Kapoor and Vikas
Kunal, okay. So it is your nice people to work with.
Great people. Both are very close friends. And Kunal and I speak many times a week. Vikas and I are very close, dear friends. We communicate very often. And it was just a great experience for me.
Was it difficult going in front of the camera?
Of course. See, I luckily don't have a nervous, I don't get nervous easily. I'm able to tackle situations of stress with a fair degree of calmness. I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I'm okay. I don't get frazzled.
Okay, we'll leave that for another time. Go on then.
I don't get frazzled that easily.
That is true.
But I still remember the first day that the shoot was happening. The entire, what is that hotel called? The Umaid Bhavan. The entire Umaid Bhavan was fully booked by this one show. It was a huge budget. It's probably the biggest food show on TV. And there were 200 crew. And the entire hotel is booked. And my first scene, I had to memorize the lines and I had to go and give my intro. And I nailed it on the very first go.
First take?
First take. And it was funny because Trevor, who works at Endemol, came up to me and said, guys, that's how you should give your first line. Mm-hmm. And I felt, in a way, like what the hell, that actually came out pretty well. And my nervousness almost immediately died. But still, every morning before the first take, I used to feel a little bit of queasiness because it was just a huge responsibility. And being in front of cameras, so many cameras, and I've never done this before in my life. The only time I think been on TV before that was maybe for a bunch of interviews or something, very small ones. And one show I had done for NDTV Food where I faked making a balushahi. I had no clue how to make it. It was a cooking show for Diwali, and I made it, and I think it was for NDTV, and it was fun. My wife was also on it, but it was an exhilarating experience. I firstly got to know firsthand that these kind of solid productions are actually adding a lot of value. I think MasterChef is a great way through which the non-professional the non-professional cooks of India get a platform.
Yeah.
And the level of skill on display was actually quite surprised. I was very pleasantly surprised. People were making restaurant quality food on the very first day.
Really?
And I was like, yes. And some of the food was terrible and but we didn't want to eat it. But a lot of the food, I would say the vast majority of the food was actually very, very good. And I felt pride in a way, some sense of pride that this is the level of skill these are just passionate individuals who have nothing to do with the industry. They just do this out of a sense of passion. And so
Did it get easier for you as the episodes went on?
Yes.
Were you very comfortable by the end?
Became very comfortable, would not get nervous at all, would find it easy to give the judgments with another layer of nuance. Meeting all those very famous and cool guests that were coming, movie stars and chefs and so many people that were coming, it became very easy to kind of just, spontaneously drop into a conversation that they could actually use on camera rather than, just random conversations. And so, it became easier as it does. You get experience and then it becomes a lot easier. So I think it was overall, I would say it was a check mark in my life that I needed to do. And I would actually do it again in a heartbeat.
What did the fame do to you? Because I've been with you after and you were being recognized on the streets.
It was amazing. And with time it fades. So I don't get that same level of attention anymore because I'm not active on TV.
But television when you're on TV, you're a star. When you're not on TV, you're not that much of a star.
Yes. But today the podcasts help.
That's true.
The podcasts are the new.
But nothing has the kind of viewership that MasterChef had in the era before news, Netflix and all of that. But did you take easily to the fame?
Well, I loved it.
Really?
I absolutely loved it. And I think it was a lot of fun. It was also slightly stressful because in the sense that I would always have to be very prim and proper. I would not be able to relax. What if somebody, especially outside, at home, doesn't matter. But going to new restaurants, it was always a little bit of a challenge. But it's a challenge that I would welcome.
Were you good to your fans when people came for selfies and all that?
Always. Yeah. I would. In fact, I would feel bad if not enough of them came.
Really?
Especially the first year after the show aired, it was boom time. Everybody was recognizing you. I couldn't walk on the airport without at least 3-4 people coming and meeting me.
Yep.
People recognizing me left, right, and center, being very polite. Indians are not as intrusive as people claim them to be.
Really?
They were. I mean, I never had one bad moment, except once. I remember I was driving with my son in the car, and this car was just whizzing around me like this. And we're in a car, so it's not even like it's not a stationary vehicle.
Right.
And I'm like, what the hell is going on? We stopped at a red light, and this lady jumped out of the car. Oh my God, you are... She didn't remember my name. You're a MasterChef, you're a MasterChef. So she went a little crazy at a red light. My son was there. And that was one of those slightly whacked out moments. But otherwise, I mean, who would not want to be recognized and have adoration from people? Ego massager.
You loved it so much, you went back and danced on television.
Don't ask me why I did that.
Yeah, why did you do that? No, I'm gonna...
Blunt answer to still...
What was the name of the show? It was the dancing competition, right?
Jhalak Dikhhla.
Okay, so...
Great show.
How did you get onto it? You're not necessarily one of the world's great dancers.
Oh my God. I could arguably be one of the bottom 1% of dancers on the face of the planet. It's so hard for me. It just doesn't come naturally.
Why did you do it and how did you do it?
Why I did it? Again, I called my wife. I said, should you do it? She said, of course.
They approached you.
They approached me, yeah, of course. So I would not even, to be honest, I mean, I have to be honest, I had never even seen the show. I knew of the concept. I knew Dancing with the Stars, etc. I knew this is one of the big shows. I'd heard the name many, many times. Everybody has in India. But I'd never even seen the show. And I knew that Chef Sanjeev Kapoor had been on it and Chef Harpal Sokhi had been on it. And so the first person that I called before accepting it, I called Chef Sanjeev. And he was somewhere out of the country. I think he was in Bangkok or he was in Dubai. And I said, should I do it? He said, you must. So first was my wife. She said, you must do it because you'll remain relevant in the mind. You'll occupy mind space in the minds of people. And then he said, yes, you must do it. And I only did it because, to be very honest, Chef Sanjeev Kapoor had done it. Because he's a guy I hold in very high regard.
Yeah, but he's the kind of guy who'd be good at anything.
He'd be good
at
anything. I mean, he's a natural
in everything.
Entertainer as well, right? He's good at his craft, but he's also great at
star. Yeah.
A true star. And so I did it because he gave me the confidence. And then, to be very honest, because I hadn't been on TV for a few years then, and I wanted to go back. And this was a big show. And there was, Madhuri Dixit and Karan Johar and Noora Fatehi as the judges. So this is like a top prime AAA plus category of show. Why would I say no? But I was super nervous. I am so bad at dancing. The only thing I'm worse at dancing is singing. And I actually had to mouth those words.
So you're on a singing competition next, no doubt.
There's no chance. They won't even... once they hear me, look at my voice. My voice is like my father used to call it.
Did you have to practice a lot for dancing?
Oh my God, 7 to 8 hours a day. I was alive on that show for about, I think 7 or 8 episodes. I can't remember exactly. It could be 6 or it could be 8. And I'm surprised. I thought I'll be the first guy to go. And my wife and my son and a lot of my friends simply said, buddy, just don't be the first guy to exit. So I survived that. And I was actually relieved.
Were you disappointed when you finally exited?
No. Very relieved. Very relieved. And I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Competition had become tough. Everybody was like leaps and bounds better than me. If I was to stay on, they would have called it rigged. There was no chance I would have. How many votes out of pity would I have been able to garner? I garnered a lot of votes. I don't know how I got so many votes.
I didn't see you on the show.
Don't see it, please.
So were you really that bad?
I was the worst. Really? I was so bad. It was just a Jhalla guy on TV that people somehow found it, I think, cute and approachable. That this could be me. If this guy can do it, so can I. I think that's what got me the votes to a certain point.
Maybe but you're just being modest. You were that bad, really?
I was really not good.
Okay.
I was not good at all. But it was just literally, but I worked hard. Yeah. What I lacked in skill and ability, I covered up in effort.
And enthusiasm.
And I don't know how enthusiastic. Some of these songs also I didn't know. A lot of these songs that I danced to, I had to memorize I'd heard them. But I have this very weird sense where I love music, but I almost never remember the words, ever. Even for my favorite songs. So
but you managed.
It was hard. I managed. I pulled through. It was tough. It took guts. It took courage. It takes a lot of courage because you could actually end up making... Remember, these shows have no second tries. If you get it wrong, the whole world is going to see it exactly the way it is. Yeah. So if I messed up the steps, which I did in one show, and that's the reason why I exited. That show, I knew I was bad. But I was relieved. I was actually relieved because that 8 hours a day, and this takes you away from work. I was spending time away from work, and I wanted to go back.
What did it do to your business? Because you're very hands-on, no?
Let me tell you this way. It does not help the business financially as much as some people may perceive it to.
Okay.
So I don't think it helps the business. Yes, people get to know you. It helps you personally. Perhaps helps massage the ego. Oh, I've been on TV and people recognize me. All that stuff is good.
You had more fans again. You got stopped at airports and all.
Not as much as the first
MasterChef,
one. Yeah. MasterChef was huge because again, this is now you're deep in the Netflix, Amazon, and Lionsgate phenomena. And so the viewership was not as high, I think, although it's a very popular show. So a lot of people did recognize me, but I'm assuming that at least the people that are more related to my industry were perhaps not even watching it. So, and those are the people that I mingle with most often. So the ego massage was less.
But was the first MasterChef good for your business?
You could say that it definitely had no negative. It had a positive impact to some extent. I'll tell you how. So they did not really milk my popularity of the time well. My team could have done a slightly better job, but we did put one of my images with the MasterChef something outside one of my restaurants in Noida, made in Punjab. And that restaurant was always doing well for us. But that actually did, I think, help. I can't put a number to it.
But it helped.
Had I been a mainstay on the show, it could have helped even more. But I've noticed, Mr. Sanghvi, that even with other people that have hosted shows, it does not necessarily guarantee any level of financial success by being on TV. It does not. Look at George of the MasterChef Australia. He had the biggest restaurant empire, but it could not.
This is George Columbaris.
George Columbaris.
Yeah.
And so it does help initially, but eventually it's the team, it's the strength of the concept itself. So it's good to be on TV. It's definitely no negative, except that it does detract time from your business. But if you can come out somehow, combine focus on your business as well as being on TV, then it's a good thing to. I would heartily recommend to anybody else thinking of hosting MasterChef. I would say do it, and even for the dance show Jhalak, it's a great show. I forged some really long-term relationships on that show as well
with dancers.
Yes, including my choreographer, Suchi, who's like my sister. Yeah, she's very, very close to me and very much still in touch. And even other people. Paras, who was on the show, is now hopefully going to become, I know he will become a very big star one day. He's already doing very well for himself. So a lot of people I've forged good relationships with. Karan Johar, I met multiple times after the show as well. So yeah, it's overall, I think.
So no regrets, overall positive.
Super. I would never tell anybody not to do them. Okay. I would say, in fact, you should do them. I would do them again, both in a heartbeat. Maybe not the dance one because it's simply too hard for me. But talking about food comes naturally. So I would do MasterChef in a heartbeat.
Okay. Let's get back to food because we've got a long way from it. Two things that you're doing at the moment. One of them is you're relaunching the Farzi cafes. I had lunch there the other day. The food was different and outstanding. Is that a deliberate thing?
Absolutely. So in 2014, when Farzi Cafe came about, it created a completely new wave. I would call it a paradigm shift. And our goal with this version is to do it again. Now everybody's seen Farzi Cafe. Many people have been there. It's now around the world. I really think it's time now again to try and create a similar impact that Farzi Cafe, the OG, did in 2014. In order to do that, you have to rewire everything. You have to do the plumbing from scratch. And so the entire DNA we're working on. We have, I think, come up with a slightly more grown-up version of the original Farzi. Okay. There is still theatre, drama, a little bit of, G-wizardry, but it is with restraint. It is slightly more grown-up. The food is not using as many of, the smoke and bubbles that we used to earlier, but still using it because that's Farzi. We can't run away from who we are.
Sure.
And you can't change the stripes of a tiger. But I definitely think that as people move on, the restaurant has to reflect what the populace wants. So the world has moved on. And in our particular space, the food industry, being relevant means constantly innovating. And if you don't innovate for even 6 months, you could lose significant mind space and you could cease to be relevant. So I firmly believe that the new Farzi Cafe is what will be the basis of what Farzis will do for the next decade.
Now, I've been to the one at Saibab, which is the original. Are you going to make these change menus available to everyone?
Absolutely.
All the Farzis?
All the Farzis will have the same menu. The decor will also undergo a change for any restaurant that's over 5 years old. And drastic changes like the one we did here. We shut it for 4 months. A successful restaurant to shut down is not something that you would do often. But we've learnt and we can perhaps do this in a modular approach in the future. But yes, the idea is to redo the interiors, but more importantly, rework the food and the cocktails and the experience.
Which you have done, judging by the time I went.
Yes.
Okay, that's one thing you've done recently. The other is we were talking about the first Masala Library and we were talking about molecular cuisine, and you got these chefs from Indian accent, which wasn't particularly molecular influence, though the food they did for you was molecular influence. At that stage, the only really molecular Indian restaurant in the world was Gaggan in Bangkok. You've now gone full circle. You're partnering with Gaggan to open in India. I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about it, but tell us about it.
Firstly, I think the most incredible meal of my life was perhaps the one that I had about 4 to 5 months ago at the new Gaggan in Bangkok.
Okay.
It was a sensory experience. I've never witnessed anything like that. I actually stood up, and that time there was no question of even getting into a detailed business or doing a partnership with them. Nothing of that was even on the cards. I must have stood up and clapped for that team on multiple times that night.
Really? In the course of the meal, yeah?
During the course of the meal. At the end of the meal, I actually stood up and gave a speech for these people where I felt so much pride in what they've done. Gaggan was sitting outside. Gaggan was in the middle. He was in the restaurant. But at this point, when I was giving that speech, he was outside because he was just returning from someplace. And I obviously met him after that. And I think I felt pride like I've never felt in anything that is not my own, like I felt that day. It was not my restaurant. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I was just a consumer. But what they had done, the experience, the music, the way that everything worked together, and most importantly, the food. The fact that I could eat something that totally looks different but tastes exactly like I'm expecting it to taste was a game-changing thing. I think he's arguably the most cerebral chef in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I may be biased because now he's a very, very close friend. But I can tell you this, that I get goosebumps when I think about the food that he can make. He's a bona fide genius. Him and Rido are arguably the greatest culinary team in the world today.
Rido's is long-term number 2.
Rido
For a
Anton.
long time, yeah.
Absolutely.
Who's
Gem
Indonesian
of a
but
guy.
cooks Indian food better than most Indians.
Better than most people. Understands the depth of it. Like it's unbelievable how he knows so much without growing up having eaten that food. And so that's the day that I just thought that whatever I do at Masala Library is great, but this is another level. And I have arguably the best location that I can possibly get in India, or at least in Delhi. And
this is the Masala Library in Janpath, which you used to run, which is now reopening.
Yeah. And it's such a fabulous location. It's the heart of Delhi, the widest road in the country. Janpath, probably the most famous road in Delhi NCR, maybe in India. And to have a space like this available, in order to really, and of course, Masala Library would have done great. It was, before we shut down, we were arguably one of the busiest restaurants in the country.
Yeah.
And amazing. We had some problems with some other issues for which we had to shut it, but never for lack of business. Till several months after we shut, we still used to get 40, 50, 60 calls a day. So the idea was to do a restaurant that truly, a marquee location deserves a marquee brand. And I think there's no bigger brand than him. And I was just, had I not believed in the food, I would not even have pursued this path. But because I just was blown away so much by the food that I could eat that. And since then I've been, again, to eat that food. It never gets old. It changes the way you perceive art and food in a single sentence. And that's what it was. It was magical.
Plus huge expectations. Gaggan has never opened a full-time restaurant in India. There have been plans over the years. Nothing's ever worked out. He's had millions of offers. He's chosen you. He's come in. Doesn't that put a lot of pressure?
It does. But like I said, I take pressure in a positive way. People used to say, isn't being born a Kalra under Jiggs Kalra's tutelage, doesn't that put pressure? I think that's a positive pressure. It kind of makes you work hard, want to work harder. And I take it that way. So for me, the confidence has actually jumped even more so now that I know we're doing this together. Because I think with the kind of the meeting of the minds that I've felt with him, I've rarely felt that. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And it's positive pressure. And I think if we do everything right, it could be a very, very cool thing.
When will you open?
We are looking at May. Which
in this business means July, August, right?
I hope not, because I'm paying rent and it's an expensive spot. But yes, it could take longer.
So you've got Farzi being relaunched. You've got your opening, what will be one of the world's most watched Indian restaurants with Gaggan Anand, the world's greatest Indian chef. Everyone is going to see how it's going. There's a lot happening in your life. How do you manage with all the stress?
I think my stress buster, this is going to sound cliched, but it's got to be my family, my kids. I am a devoted father. I'm not the kind of father who will drop them to school every morning. I don't do that. But I spend a lot of quality time. So if I'm in the
How old are your kids now?
My boy is 13, going to be 14 in a month. My daughter is 11, is going to be 12 in about 10 days.
Are they foodies like their father?
My daughter is a big foodie. My God, her knowledge, it's shocking. I think she got a taste buds from her grandfather. And she is able to detect nuance that it seems impossible for an 11-year-old to be able to guess.
So it's in her blood.
It's in her blood.
In her genes.
And you know, she is gone more in gone more in me. And my son has gone more on his mother. But even him, he knows food like really quickly. Especially, he has a very fast palate, like in the sense that if something is off, it'll take him less than half a bite to be able to tell me if something is right or wrong. Very often especially for my delivery brands, I use them as test dummies or guinea pigs. And I ordered, I think from Louis Burger, I ordered a burger. We changed the recipe. And my son, within half a bite, was able to give me a Gen Z perspective on whether or not that burger would work. And it was instant. And was, yes, clear cut, black and white. There's no gray
Good instincts.
Very good instincts. Is able to somehow understand whether or not his ilk, people of his age, would appreciate that food. And I use them as guinea pigs for my...
Sounding board sounds better than guinea pig.
They are, so they enjoy it, but they also kind of think of it as work. So eventually, sometimes I have to literally request, buddy, please, can you do this?
So pay them, no?
Well, the holidays don't come for free.
Well, listen, you grew up in a very comfortable upper middle class household, but your father never had much in the way of disposable income. You now have a lot of money. How does that feel?
It's I don't know if I have a lot of money or not, but I definitely feel that it brings with it a sense of freedom. You don't have to worry about sometimes the smaller things. But like I said, I don't think I have the kind of money that people may think I have. Not
How
even
many
close.
restaurants you have?
We have now over 40.
Yeah. And delivery brands, you have 2?
We have 4 brands, and we have now about 50 kitchens with about 100 points of sale. So some of these kitchens have multiple brands. So about 50 kitchens, and that's been a real good surprise for us.
Are they all losing money?
None of them are losing money.
So why do you say you don't have the kind of money people think you do?
Because they don't, because it's a very expensive business. So even though restaurant make money, the corporate costs are significant and the occupancy costs are crazy.
What are corporate costs?
There are to pay for a CFO and a CEO, and I'm lucky, touchwood, I'm lucky enough to have some really good people. Especially my CFO and my CEO and the top leadership team is a bunch of really passionate people.
The company is just owned by you and investors, right? Yes. You're not public yet.
No, I'm not public yet. I have 2 great investors on my board, and I'm thankful to have them there because they're very good at also advising on strategy, and they're very supportive. That's all you need.
Are they private equity?
Private equity.
So at some stage they'll want to go public, no?
I have to secure an exit. That's my duty. It's my duty to secure an exit for my investors because that's the kind of legacy I want to leave behind. An entrepreneur that his investors could bank on to ensure an exit. Every private equity has to exit.
Exactly.
Either through an IPO or through a strategic person coming and purchasing their shares or through a strategic
sale. So an IPO possibility?
Absolutely. It's something that I'm not even close to it right now. So it's not like we're planning it
what
in
kind
the
of
near
valuation
future.
Would you get now in the market?
Hard to say. Very hard to say.
Come on. You know everything.
I actually don't know. And I don't want to say anything that could be so off the mark that I come across as a guy who doesn't know his own business.
Okay. How much of the company do you own yourself?
let me put it this way. I'm still the largest single shareholder.
You still are, yeah? Of a very successful, massive company, which is why it's called Massive Restaurants.
I chose the name with a specific thought in mind, and we're not there yet. We're not even close. But I can tell you this, that the goal is to build a company that truly puts Indian food on the global palate permanently.
You don't think you've succeeded?
Not even close.
Really?
I'm not even close.
What's left?
There's too much left. Our scale is nowhere close to where I would like to be. We're working towards it. We are still not as influential, especially on a global scale, as I would have liked to be by this time. And I think everything is a work in progress. I think I'm not even, to be very honest, I'm not making this up. I don't think I'm even 1% where I want to be.
Really?
Yeah, not even 1%.
So your life is still in front of you.
I need something to chase, as Matthew McConaughey said in that great speech, and resonated with me very strongly. I almost need something to chase on a daily basis. And if I feel that I've already achieved it, then what am I going to wake up next morning and pursue?
Okay. I couldn't have put it better myself. Zorawar Kalra, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation.
Pleasure's all mine.
Thanks.